There was something about the forest that always intrigued Anna. Nestled deep in the mountains, the dense woodland was known as Blackthorn Forest, an ancient place shrouded in mystery and whispered legends. Locals told tales of supernatural occurrences, the kind of stories people shared around campfires to spook one another. Strange disappearances, eerie sounds, and the chilling sensation of being watched were common experiences for anyone who ventured too far into its depths. Anna's husband, James, was less inclined to believe in such things. He was a rational man, always seeking logical explanations for the unexplainable. But when Anna suggested they take a trip to Blackthorn for a weekend hike, he agreed, if only to humor her fascination with the forest's eerie reputation. It was a crisp autumn morning when they set out, the trees aflame with shades of red, orange, and gold. The sun barely pierced the thick canopy above, casting long, creeping shadows on the trail ahead. Anna carried a small backpack with essentials, and James had a map of the forest, though it was rumored that maps didn't do much good in Blackthorn. "This place is beautiful," Anna said, admiring the towering trees and the moss-covered rocks along the path. "Yeah, but I'm not sure why you wanted to come here of all places," James replied, glancing at her with a smirk. "I know you love these ghost stories, but you don't really believe in all that, do you?" Anna shrugged. "I don't know. Maybe it's just fun to imagine there's something more out there, something we don't understand." James laughed softly. "Well, let's just hope we don't run into anything unexplainable, all right?" As they ventured deeper into the forest, the atmosphere began to change. The air grew cooler, and an uneasy stillness settled over the woods. The usual sounds of nature, the rustling of leaves, the chirping of birds, seemed to fade, replaced by an unsettling silence. Anna paused, glancing around. "Did you hear that?" James frowned. "Hear what?" "I don't know, it sounded like whispering." He stopped beside her, listening intently, but all he could hear was the soft rustling of leaves in the faint breeze. "It's probably just the wind," he said, though his voice was less confident now. "Come on, let's keep moving." But as they continued down the narrow trail, the whispers grew more distinct. At first, it was barely audible, a faint murmur carried on the wind. But the further they walked, the clearer it became. The voices seemed to come from all around them, surrounding them, though there was no one else in the forest. Anna's steps slowed. Her heart began to race as the whispers intensified, taking on a strange, disembodied quality. They were soft, insidious, and somehow familiar. It wasn't just random words she was hearing. They were her own fears, whispered back at her, as if the forest itself was reading her thoughts. "James," she said, her voice tight with fear, "we need to leave. Something's not right." James, who had been skeptical from the start, turned to her with a frown. "What do you mean?" "We're fine, Anna. It's just your imagination playing tricks on you." But even as he spoke, James felt a growing unease settle in his chest. The whispers were starting to get to him, too, gnawing at his mind like an itch he couldn't scratch. They weren't just random sounds. They were speaking to him. His deepest insecurities, his darkest fears, all the things he never voiced aloud, were being spoken back to him, taunting him. He shook his head, trying to clear his thoughts. "This is ridiculous," he muttered to himself. "It's just the wind. It has to be." But as they pressed on, the whispers grew louder, more urgent. The trees seemed to close in on them, their tall, twisted branches reaching out like skeletal fingers.